We begin tonight with developing news out of Washington. The president announcing he will be leaving Walter Reed Medical Center in now about a half an hour. Good Monday evening, everyone. Welcome to Western Mass News at 6. I'm Chris Pisano.
And I'm Jordyn Jagolinzer. Those close to the president say he is demanding to be released as he recovers from COVID-19. Western Mass News correspondent Mary Maloney has more.
President Trump says he's feeling really good and tweeted this message: "Don't be afraid of COVID."
I learned a lot about COVID. I learned it by really going to school. This is the real school.
The president spent Monday morning active on social media, tweeting a flurry of messages, many ending with the same word: vote. It's a sign the president is focused on the election as doctors and top aides focus on his health.
Though he may not entirely be out of the woods yet, the team and I agree that all our evaluations, and most importantly, his clinical status, support the president's safe return home.
Since testing positive last week, doctors say the president had a fever and his oxygen levels dropped twice.
He received dexamethasone, which is reserved only for people with severe COVID. So that alone raises concerns about his condition.
Even as the president is eager to leave the hospital, more members of his inner circle continue to test positive for the virus, including White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, who tweeted, "After testing negative consistently, including every day since Thursday, I tested positive for COVID-19 on Monday morning while experiencing no symptoms." The First Lady, also recovering from coronavirus, tweeted, "I'm feeling good and will continue to rest at home." This as the COVID pandemic shows no signs of slowing.
I'm actually disturbed and concerned about the fact that our baseline of infections is still stuck at around 40,000 per day. That's no place to be when you're trying to get your arms around an epidemic.
I'm Mary Maloney reporting.
And here's a live look from outside Walter Reed Medical Center. We are keeping a close eye on all that activity, and we'll take you there live when and if President Trump does leave the facility during this newscast.
The latest information out of Springfield shows a continued rise in coronavirus cases, but the Commissioner of Health and Human Services says the virus seems to be targeting a different age group.
Western Mass News reporter Sarah Granelli joins us now live in Springfield with the newest information. Sarah.
Jordyn, health officials say that what is partly to blame is coronavirus fatigue, that people aren't taking the right steps to stay safe. This bar graph showing coronavirus cases in Springfield since September continues to climb, with 38 new cases reported since Sunday.
I believe that it is because we are opening up more, but I also believe there is COVID fatigue. Individuals are tired, but it appears that younger individuals are not taking this virus as seriously as they should.
Western Mass News spoke with the city's Commissioner of Health and Human Services, Helen Colton Harris. She says younger people are now testing positive for COVID-19.
This virus appears to be changing as far as the demographic, the age demographic.
And the proof is in the data. When analyzing 191 coronavirus cases since September, Colton Harris' office found 54.5% of people with COVID-19 are under the age of 30. You can compare that to the people over the age of 51, where the virus is infecting nearly 17%. And for people ages 60 and over, nearly 9% are testing positive for COVID-19. Colton Harris also keeping an eye out for specific areas in the city that show increases.
We have seen that in specific zip codes 01109 and 01108, there appears to be a greater spike. So we are not sure at this point what the reason is, but we are seeing multiple households with many cases. We're seeing clusters.
Colton Harris says although the data may be disappointing, that it is still just as important to follow safety precautions, especially since it's starting to get colder and more people are starting to head inside. Live in Springfield, I'm Sarah Granelli for Western Mass News.
Sarah, thanks for that live report. Here's a look at today's numbers of COVID-19 cases. So far, the state reports 465 new cases for a total of 132,905 in the Bay State. There are sadly 20 more deaths today. The statewide death toll now stands at 9,315.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, is tweaking its guidance about how coronavirus spreads. It reiterates that prolonged close contact is the worst culprit, especially if people aren't wearing masks and are closer than 6 feet apart. The change to the guidance involves whether the virus can linger in the air after an infected person leaves an area. The CDC says some reports indicate transmission like that can happen in enclosed, poorly ventilated spaces, but it's rare. For the first time this season, the New England Patriots will play in front of a live crowd when they take on the defending Super Bowl champs tonight. And they have a completely different game plan, as starting QB Cam Newton has been ruled out of tonight's game due to testing positive to COVID-19.
Now the Pats are looking to start veteran Brian Hoyer against the Chiefs. Western Mass News reporter Kayla Burton joins us live in studio getting answers on how the league is investigating the Pats amid the pandemic. Kayla?
Chris and Jordan, a whole lot going on here. The NFL now launching a process to find out whether or not the organization complied with coronavirus protocols before Newton's positive test results. The news of Newton testing positive for COVID-19 coming as a surprise to many, as the Patriots were one of the last 3 teams in the NFL to not place a player on the COVID-19 reserve list. The other is being the Houston Texans and the Los Angeles Chargers. Despite there not being a second positive in New England, the league is investigating the organization. But the Patriots aren't the first team to be under the NFL's microscope. The Tennessee Titans also being investigated after multiple positive results in a span of just days. Officials say this investigation isn't the same. ESPN's Adam Schefter says, quote, "The difference between the Patriots and the Titans is that the Titans have had somebody in their organization test positive for 6 straight days. They have had 18 people test positive, including 9 players. 18, that's an outbreak. The Patriots situation is an isolated incident so far." Now, as for Newton, well, he could be back on the field as early as next week. NFL protocols allow asymptomatic players who test positive to return to the team's facility after 10 days have passed since the initial positive. But as for tonight, Cam Newton is out of the picture, and Brian Hoyer, well, he's in. And this will be his first start of his career with the Pats. Now, coming up later on Western Mass News tonight, we'll have all the highlights and the post-game coverage, so make sure you guys stay tuned. But for now, live in studio, Kayla Burton, Western Mass News.
Kayla, thank you for that live report. And a reminder, you can watch that Patriots showdown with the Kansas City Chiefs on CBS 3. Kickoff is set for 7 p.m.
New information tonight out of Springfield as Police Commissioner Cheryl Clapprood says the start of the department's police academy has been delayed. The academy with 34 recruits was slated to begin today to help fill the 32 retirements that the department had this year. However, Clapprood says they had to alter their plans after temperature checks this morning revealed 7 of the recruits had a temperature that what was not allowed to enter the academy building.
And a decision was made to postpone the beginning of this academy for at least 1 week. I would like to get the results of those tests. I would like to have them retested before they start on Monday, and we'll try it again, set it up for next Monday. I know there's other issues out there, a stomach bug going around, so hopefully it's not a COVID issue. If it's a COVID issue, hopefully.
Also today, Clapprood announced that the department currently has 2 individuals out due to COVID-19. That's 1 officer and 1 civilian. And for more coverage on the coronavirus emergency as it continues to develop, log on to our free streaming Western Mass News app. Another beautifully seasonable fall day in the books, but it looks like we might have some stormy weather on the way.
For more on this week's forecast, let's turn things over now to our expert. First warning, meteorologist Don Maher. Don, it's good to see you.
Good to see you both on this Monday evening. Yeah, it has been a rather pleasant day out there. Lots of sunshine, though now we've seen the clouds move in as the afternoon has gone on. Now, if you have plans this evening, I think you're going to be okay. A sprinkle can't be ruled out, but for a lot of us, we are going to remain dry. Temperature-wise right now, coming in the 60s, 64. In fact, here in Springfield, our winds out of the south-southeast at 3 miles per hour. 62 in Westfield, Northampton 63, Greenfield coming in at 65, Hartford, New Haven, both coming in at 63. So we're seeing these numbers cool, and that's going to continue to be the case as we head on into the late evening and into the overnight. In fact, overnight lows tonight going to dip down into the mid to upper 40s. So we do have the clouds out there right now. We'll call it partly cloudy skies for the evening, and then low clouds and fog will continue to move in as we head on into the overnight hours. Right now, the only shower activity that can be found on the radar, some light showers down in parts of southeastern Connecticut, some additional showers off to our northwest in parts of New York State. So mostly cloudy skies during the overnight. Some areas of fog. We dip down into the mid to upper 40s. We'll start out with clouds tomorrow morning in the lower 50s. Still the chance for a spot sprinkle or shower through the morning into the early afternoon. I think a lot of us, though, tomorrow are going to remain dry, and no concerns this evening in Kansas City as the Patriots take on the Chiefs at 7:05. Temperatures in the 60s. Of course, more on this forecast coming up in just a couple of minutes from now. Guys, back to you.
Don, thank you. Still to come on this Monday, new changes are coming to highway exit numbers all across the state. We're getting you answers on what you need to know before you hit the roads.
Plus, across the border in Connecticut, a Halloween display is paying tribute to those who've passed away from the pandemic. The details when we come back.